Welcome to day 23 of the escape plan. Today we are going to be talking about the solution. So in the last video we got the prospect to open up about what's not working, and in this stage the prospect starts to hear themselves say, this isn't where I want to be, right? And now we shift the focus towards the future, right? We're not going to pitch yet, but we actually need to start asking questions that get them thinking, what happens if I actually solve this? What would life look like? So this stage is called solution awareness, and it is where change and that transformation starts to feel possible, right? So why does this stage matter? And what are the four things we're doing in this stage, or what does this stage do, right? So most people know what's wrong in their life or what they want, right? But again, similar to the problem awareness, very few of them spend time thinking deeply about what life would look like if they fix the problems or the pain they have and how it would make them feel, right? And that's what we basically are going to help them do in this part of the conversation. So this stage, what it does, it helps the prospect imagine the benefit of solving their problems, helps them realize they've already been looking for solutions, helps them emotionally connect to what life could, really look like on the other side. And finally, it makes it easier for them to say yes, because obviously we are going to be discussing as well what kind of solution they want. So when we come to our pitch, it is, much easier for them to say yes, because we're going to pitch it to their needs and to what they are looking for specifically. So what do we do in this section, right? We explore whether they've already tried fixing the problem, right? In the past, we ask what they're looking for in their ideal world with this problem solved. And we basically connect their future goals to their why, right? Why is it so important that you maybe want to buy your parents a house or retire your parents? Why is it so important that you want to travel the world? Things like this. We are just here helping them define what they actually want, and most importantly, why they want it. We're not pitching, we're not explaining any of our program. We don't do any of that, right? You might have thought sales was like, I don't know, I have a lighter here. Oh, this lighter is amazing, blah, blah, blah. But like, the best part of sales is that you're not selling the lighter, you're selling and you're asking questions by having a conversation. You're not selling the benefits or the features of this. You're asking them the problems they have by not having this and what life would look like by having this, right? So let's use an example, right, in terms of fitness coaching. So let's say you're working with a fitness coach who, again, helps busy professionals, 9-to-5ers, get in better shape. We've already discussed the problem, right? And they've admitted they feel stuck, they're inconsistent, they're frustrated with their current fitness routine, their current fitness habits. So here's what the solution awareness might sound like, right? So again, we're starting by going into the past. So you could simply go from, okay, so the transition to this phase, what it would sound like is, okay, got you. So, I can understand, obviously, the rationale behind, wanting to potentially get coaching right now. But before we spoke today, were you looking for a program, or have you started a program that could, help you stay consistent and actually get in shape? Now, what this question is going to do is it is going to basically give us an understanding of what they've tried in the past, because this is super important. Because, like I said, we're going to be discussing their past and what they've tried and all this stuff. And the reason for that is because, let's say they've worked with a fitness coach before and there were certain things that they liked about the fitness coach. For example, they liked the fact that they were held accountable, they liked the fact that they had like a clear diet plan. But what they didn't like was that the coach wasn't holding them as accountable as they could have been. They were just doing a check-in once a month, and they wanted check-ins more regularly, right? this is super important for us to understand, because let's say we don't make it extremely, like, if we don't understand that and we don't make ourselves clear in the pitch that the check-ins that we, sell are every single week, they might assume that it's similar to that one, that it's monthly. So they might be like, oh, it sounds kind of like similar, right? So this is why we do this. Kind of really want to drill it in. So we've asked what they've tried in the past or if they have done anything. So they might say something like, oh, I've been following a few accounts on Instagram, tried a couple things, but nothing really worked, right? Okay. So here we want to understand those programs that you tried, like, was there anything missing? You say it didn't work. Like, why not? They could say, okay, I guess the structure, the accountability, it's too easy to quit when no one's checking in. Okay, that makes sense, John. Let me ask you, like, why is that accountability and that structure so important to you right now? Oh, well, that accountability and structure is really important to me right now because I've never had it before and I've never, achieved my goals. So if I have that accountability and that structure, I feel like it will help me get to my goal. Boom. So now we've kind of looked into their past briefly. On sales calls, it will look differently to that. Obviously, you can't script frame a sales call, but that is basically what's going on. Then we go into, okay, so if you did find something that helped you stay on track, held you accountable and feel better in your body again, what would that allow you to do in your day-to-day life that you can't really do right now? Well, the prospect would say something like, well, I'd feel much better. I'd be more confident at work. I'd probably start going out, that kind of stuff. Okay, got you. And I mean, why is that so important to you? Like having that confidence back. And then now we're making it emotional. Right? We're going into the emotions. Or like, you could even ask a clarifying question, which is like confidence. Like, you say you want to get your confidence back. Like, what do you mean by that? Right? We're going to do a whole video on like the importance of, there's these things called probing questions and clarifying questions. And these things are really important in sales because they're little questions that show that you're listening and they really build trust. And not just that, but this is actually what moves the conversation along so it doesn't feel like an interview, right? Because when you're asking all these questions, if you just ask questions back to back and it doesn't feel like a conversation, they almost can feel interrogated. They can feel like they're being interviewed. So it's important that we obviously make them feel heard and make them feel like it's an actual conversation. They might say that, what they mean by getting their confidence back. They might say, like, oh, I've kind of like let myself go for the past year and I want to feel proud of myself again, like when I look in the mirror. Got you. Okay. So then what I would do here typically, before we go into some example questions to take note of and to write down so you can start using them, is you really want to kind of create that vision in his head or her head, right? You really want to get clear on, okay, what is it that you actually really, 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 really want to achieve and why? Why being the most important thing. Because if we just get, okay, they want their confidence back, right? Okay, that's good. But what's better is, why do you want your confidence back? What has not having that confidence done to you right now? What would life look like with that confidence back? Now we're getting a much clearer picture. They're going to see it in their head. You can literally use these questions where you're basically like setting the tone and the vision almost, where you're like, okay, John, do me a favor, like, picture yourself with that confidence back and going into work, feeling good about yourself. Like, do you feel like it has an impact, outside of just your physical health? Yeah, for sure. I feel like I perform better at work. I feel like this would happen. And okay, performing better at work. Again, you can ask this question. Why is that so important to you? Or when you say performing better at work, like, what do you mean by that? So if you can tie in, for example, this is what I'm basically trying to get at with this point, is if you can tie in the fact that they can get, when they get more confidence, right? If they believe that increased confidence is going to improve their let's say, financial success, well, that's a very, very important thing to know and to have. Because if we most importantly, not us, if the prospect knows that and understands that, then all of a sudden, them getting a fitness coach is going to transform their life, right? And it becomes something that they really need. So this creates urgency here. So going into the example of here, exploring the past, exploring the vision, connecting emotion, right? So you're only really going to ask like 3 of these like main questions, I like to call them. It's like one from each. So exploring the past, exploring their vision, connecting the emotion. It's like one of these questions. And then you like clarify, right? And you probe, like, how would it make you feel? Why is it so important to you? What impact would that have on your life outside of, just the fitness? Those kind of questions, right? So, exploring the past. Questions like, have you looked for anything to help with this before? What have you tried? How did it work out? Why do you think it didn't work out for you? These things are super important. Now, an advanced technique to note is, let's say someone's worked with a fitness coach or whatever it may be, and they say, fitness coach isn't the best example for this, but like, okay, let's say you work for a marketing company and you've sold to a business, you're selling to a business that has worked with a marketing agency before. What's really important here is to identify, okay, why didn't it work? Because the person you're speaking with needs to take accountability for why it didn't work. Obviously, if that is the case. For example, what I mean by that, let's say the business you're speaking with, selling for this marketing agency, was it didn't work. You ask why it didn't work. Well, they weren't really booking meetings for us. Okay, why weren't they booking meetings for us? Like, was there any information they were missing from you? Okay, good to know. What I would then ask is, okay, were there people within this program, like marketing agency, were there clients of theirs that were seeing success, that you knew were seeing success? Yes. If the business says that, now is where we start to hold them accountable for why it didn't work. Again, we're leaders as sales reps. We are leaders, and we cannot have a conversation where we allow the prospect to lie to themselves, because that sets the tone for the rest of the call, right? If you allow the prospect to lie to themselves at one point in the call, then they're just going to lie to you later in the call again and again and again. And we need this conversation to be open so that they can help themselves best, simply, so we can help them help. So we can help them help themselves. There you go. Got it out eventually. But yeah, quite simply, once they say that they knew clients, for example, that it did work for, you ask, okay, so what do you feel like the difference was between those clients and you? Because what this does is, it's a question that allows our prospects to look internally, because they may know why it didn't work. It's something that they've thought about before, and they may say, well, we weren't closing the deals. Like, they were booking us meetings, but we didn't have like the sales skills to close them. Okay, so then that is important to note, because maybe as part of your marketing service, you offer help with the sales, and then you can obviously pitch that to them, because you know that's something that they want or need, right? Super, super important here. So that's exploring the past, and again, kind of advanced part, which is holding them accountable to why it didn't work. Obviously, that's nuanced, because sometimes it's out of their control, but most of the time, especially in the B to C market, it is down to them why it didn't work. Okay, exploring their vision. Ask them, okay, so at the beginning we potentially understood their goal, like from what they were telling us. If not, we just ask, okay, so like, what are you hoping to achieve in the next 3 to 6 months? What does losing 20 pounds of fat, what does that look like for you? What would that look like for you, losing that weight and being in a better, physical health position, right? why do anything about this now, right? This is a bit of a urgency creation question again, but it's important for us to understand and for them to understand, like, why do they even want to do this, anything about this now, especially with fitness, right? You could have done something about fitness for a very long time. Why now? Why do anything about fitness right now? And we really want to explore their vision, understand what it would feel like to achieve that, what it would do to their life, what it would potentially do outside of their fitness life, for example, like work, family, relationships. Because again, similar to what we spoke about in the problem awareness in the previous video, if we can turn this like small thing into something much bigger, then all of a sudden the prospect sees that and it becomes something that they want to do a lot more, right? Because at the end of the day, like, the decision to do this is not up to the salesperson. It's up to the prospect to choose what they want to do, right? And then throughout all of this, like, we need to, like I said, connect the emotion behind it. Like, what would having that result allow you to do that you can't really do right now? What impact would that have on your life or your relationships or your business, right? How would you feel if you were able to get there? Questions like this are super important. Super, super important. And yeah, those are some example questions. Again, like, feel free, watch this back. Make sure you have your notes out, because by the end of this, you should have like a clear understanding of the framework so that you can practice. Again, that'll be another episode of like how to practice best. But yeah, looking and summarizing again, kind of like why this works so well. It is important to understand and remind yourself, you're not selling a program. You're not selling a pen. You're helping someone reconnect with what they want, the life they want to live, right? By letting them describe what success looks like and why it matters to them personally, they're going to feel safe, they're going to feel seen, they're going to feel heard, and they're going to start to believe that it's actually possible to achieve. And that is what earns trust. Right? So, most people think sales is about convincing. It's not, it's about leading. The best salespeople don't convince, they lead. They ask, they listen, and they help people reconnect to what they truly want, and they help them achieve those goals, right? This is how you shift someone from kind of focused on the problem to focused on the solution. And now that you know what your prospect wants and why it matters to them, the next kind of day, tomorrow, we're going to be talking about, okay, now you understand the problem you have, what it's doing to you, and why you don't like this problem. You also know the solution. Now we need to talk about, okay, what does life look like if you just stay where you are and you continue doing what you are doing? Because this is going to create the urgency, all right? So I look forward to seeing you there tomorrow. All the best, guys.